Hello, hello.
Hey.
Wait a minute. Let me get this. What's this all going? What's going on here? Facebook's trying to secure my bloody account. I'm sure I'm getting hacked, you know.
Yeah.
You just don't care, do you? Yeah, there's Jerry. Look, here we are.
I think it's a case of the boy that cried wolf.
Well, I am. I'm not. I'm genuinely. I think I've had loads of those phishing.
That whole. Boo-hoo! My sex tape got leaked. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Our sex tape.
It wasn't a blatant PR move. Hey, nice segue.
Oh, no. Seamless. How's it going, man?
Jerry, that's a very conservative haircut.
This is. I've had to douse it down, like literally. There's loads of hair gel in it. It's going out, sort of wild. Just,
you look like a real life Lego man.
That's very good.
Boom!
Boom. Very good.
Nobody comes on here and starts saying they've got better hair than me.
Yeah, take the hat off. We'll see.
Yeah, I know, it's all lovely. Yeah,
Go on, Pat Butcher.
Yeah, exactly.
You've had a pink rinse, haven't you?
Well spotted. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
That's beautiful. How are we doing, gentlemen? Should we introduce our guest for the people that don't recognise him by his hair alone?
Are we recording now?
We'll go straight in.
No, we never start.
We go straight in. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Kerfuffle podcast with our very special guest today is Mr. Jerry Lyons of the Estate Agent Content Club and a PR expert. And Jerry joins us as our resident PR expert for our very first PR episode.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely, heartwarming intro.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It doesn't usually do that.
Yeah.
That was lovely. It felt like back in the old days when we used to be polite to our guests and actually introduce them and, make.
Yeah, we don't do that. I mean, even now I'm not paying any attention to you. I'm just actually trying to, for the 600th time, see if we can stream it to Facebook Live, which is fucking just a pipe dream, to be honest.
Okay, whilst you get going with that,
you dick
I'm going to tackle some of the day's news with Jerry.
Lovely.
Tackle away.
Jerry, as you know, one of my favourite news outlets, and there are many for our industry, but the Estate Agent Today doesn't get enough coverage on our show.
Mm-hmm.
We very often talk about the other one, but they've got a couple of stories in there that are interesting. And one of them is that the property ombudsman continues to take 40 to 50 calls a day from the public. Presumably those are issues that they've got with agents, even though everybody's pretty much shut down and unable to offend anybody at this time. You think those phones would stop ringing, but I think they're getting more calls than an average estate agent is at the moment.
Yeah. That's quite surprising, but I suppose if you're looking at the volume across the whole country, that saying, there's always one. There is always one. There's always going to be somebody who's going to see you out walking and think, what are they doing? Like at the moment. The PR equivalent of that. So to be honest with you, with that, I've just been interrupted like that fella on BBC. Get out. Why? Get out. Why? Seriously, get out. That's not the way to handle it, is it?
I love this. Those are my favourite bits of all the shows. At the end of this, I'm going to edit in everybody's kids just coming in and out of the clips.
It's great, isn't it? I've told him as well. I said, I'm with two very important people. Sorry, I'm going to digress a little bit. Did I tell you about that Simon Whale? Did I tell you, Simon, about it? We were having a chat round the dinner table about vandalism in town, in the little town where we lived, yeah? It was probably drunks. And I swear on my life, my daughter went, was it Simon Whale? She's 8, so I swear to God.
She's got your number, mister. Oh, yeah.
Subliminal advertising there.
I know, you never. What else is she picking up in the house of madness? And just, do you know what I mean? For the last 3 days, I've pretended to be Larry David. Seriously. Next is going to be that.
I love the smile and the menace behind it. That's what, when you say that. No, seriously.
Yeah. But going back to that ombudsman thing, from a PR perspective for agents, it wouldn't be of much concern to me at the moment. It's just news filler, you know.
It is. To be honest with you, at the moment, it is, the news is a little bit slow, but there are a couple of gems in there. So today, I think, just keeping with the same common theme, we'll start with the estate agent today. They're basically talking about a virtual viewing masterclass. It's top tips from an agent that conducted a virtual viewing. I think Terry Robinson, partner at Fine & Country's Banbury and Buckingham office, sold a 450,000 three-bed cottage in the village of Tingewick. Oh, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? Nice. And they've done all of that off the back of sort of video conferencing, etc. Now, you can make of that what you wish in terms of whether or not a virtual offer or a virtual viewing is ever going to take the place of the actual in-person viewing. So, i.e., after all of this blows over, are they going to go back and look at it and think, that's not quite how we imagined it? So, I think it's
over though, yeah.
Sorry?
It is going to blow over. You're telling me. I'm saying, I'm holding on to your confidence that all this is going to blow over.
I have just been sent an email by the Chief Rabbi of England telling me that I should prepare for virtual services to take place in all the synagogues for the High Holy Days. And just to give you an optimistic note, that's mid-September, I think. So...
Well, to be honest, at least he's not having to go at Corbyn anymore.
And if you believe what the left wing say, Chief Rabbi started all of this virus thing in the first place, so he knows when it's going to end. So you know what I mean?
Right. Okay. Even I'm steering away from that one. I'm out.
Well, as long as we're not going out live, Simon, it'll be all right.
We are live at the moment, so just don't say shit or bugger.
Or offend any of the major religious groups. No, but seriously, so I think actually that people are now actually planning for those sort of timelines. And yet I'm speaking to people every day, particularly within the industry, who think we're going back to work in 2.5 weeks' time.
I've spoken to a few like that, yeah.
So I don't know, you've got this balance, but it's echoed, that actual story is echoed in today's news, also in Property Industry Eye. They report from Chesterton's has done thousands of virtual viewings and agrees hundreds of new tenancies. So Chesterton's and the numbers here are quite interesting. They report that they've kept busy over the lockdown period. They've registered 2,369 new tenants, so needing to move. So again, that's just taking on. Those are new inquiries. They have conducted 3,432 virtual viewings. I don't know if they calculate that by the number of clicks they're getting or whatever. They have said that they've received 396 offers and agreed 199 new tenancy agreements over the past 4 weeks alone. Those numbers are huge.
Yeah.
Mm. Is it the shape of things to come? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I don't know whether... Obviously, there's been a lot of criticism of agents that have acted like this isn't happening. And I must tell you, when I look at the Australians' report, I mean, they've got very low incidence over there, but I see a lot of stuff from Novak, and they're in the office, they're doing stuff, they're doing viewings, they're able to sort of do as much as they can virtually. But I think doing even sort of conducting virtual viewings 2 or 3 weeks ago was not being necessarily sort of lauded. It was seen as being a little bit controversial almost.
Yeah, you know, are you aware of the sort of 3 phases of communication during a crisis?
Shitting
You're going to enlighten us.
Yeah, shitting yourself, buying loads of toilet paper, and getting pissed. But there's an alternative to that. It's first of all, in a crisis, they need helpful communications. That's the first step. So I'd say we're still in that help phase at the moment. You know, we need to help people.
Sorry, Jerry. What that is that for those that quite rightly are still stuck in the headlamps? They can't, you know, they've got the bad news has overwhelmed them, and that the job therefore is to inform and just give facts.
Yeah, the help phase is from the moment we had the lockdown to about now. I'd say we're still in the help phase. We're starting to get into the hope phase a bit. Well, I was quite hopeful before David's opening bit there, where he seems we're going to be shut down till the World Cup in 2022 or wherever it's going to be now. So we're in the help phase. we're in the help phase now, but I was thinking we were just about starting to get into the hope phase, because we know we're in the second period of lockdown, so the second 3 weeks. So from a communications point of view, this is almost like entering into the hope phase. And the hope phase, we give people hope, like you were saying about these video valuations. It's just floating the idea that there is still a market out there. There is still people looking to do some stuff. If you imagine, if you'd have done a virtual valuation piece a month ago, you would have looked like a schmuck. You'd look opportunistic. Yeah. You would have. Now it's not so bad. After you have help and you have hope, then after the next phase of a crisis communications is happiness, because then people think, it's all over and we can go back to normal. That's when you start getting out message about what have we learned from lockdown. Well, as an agency, we're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to have hand sanitizers everywhere. Do you know what I mean? You really show your learnings from this absolute shite show that we've all been living.
It's going to be like a hot brothel. Hand sanitizer everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
Apparently that is.
I've never been to one. I don't know what you're talking about.
Same as that. But what I will say as well is I've read an article somewhere. It was online, and they merge into each other nowadays. And it said, we're going to deal with COVID-19, but there's always going to be the spectre in people's heads, even subconsciously, of COVID-20. So it is going to change the way we live our lives, 100%. Because I don't know about you, I'm going to be a lot more. If somebody coughs behind me on a bus, I'm running. I'm off that bus. I don't care. Seriously, I'm off that. I'm pulling the train. You know, the emergency. I'm getting the fuck out of it.
I'm going to get all sorts of like the MPs when they're asked how much is the price of a milk. What's a bus?
I went on one about 7 weeks ago. First time in years. It is amazing.
I always get, without fail, and I appreciate this is in a glass house, the nutter always finds me within seconds, but then he's probably saying that on his podcast now, so.
In a parallel world.
Yeah. Sorry, it's really interesting you say that. I was just literally got off from another prop tech supplier. Actually, one of the, I obviously created Kerfuffle, and one of the main reasons was there'd been an explosion of prop tech firms, and people were finding it different to choose. Of course, what you're talking about, there being fewer agents, I think prop tech. So I was talking to another really well-known. Actually, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, Raj from Fixflow, people very, very, very respected character. And he thought it could well decimate some of the numbers there. And I think he's right. And I was talking to one just previously who had already shut down their London office and just said, what's the point? It's a bit of we still need a place. Maybe we need to hire a WeWork meeting room to get together. But, we're actually talking more rather than just being in the same room. We're talking more and having better conversations now than we were a month ago.
Yeah, and I've spoken to agents who feel they're more productive under lockdown because they know they've got set windows of time to get stuff done.
Do you think we've learned more about the human need to actually look at somebody's face when they're talking? So I'm having more Zoom calls than I am having regular telephone conversations, and people seem to be gravitating towards those. So if you say, right, I'll talk to you about whatever it is, they say, right, I'll send you over a Zoom link. We'll do it by video. I've never, other than sort of prop tech suppliers who were trying to sort of talk me around their software, I've never done those before. This has been an eye-opener.
It's just so incredibly easy. I'm a techno dunce. But yeah, Zoom is just been brilliant. Apparently there are other video conferencing applications available. You might have to say that.
There are.
We'd be proud to be sponsored by Zoom, sponsors of COVID-19.
Haven't we? We were, for a long time, we were talking about sponsorship, and then we got a bit bored, didn't we?
Well, no. Well, I tell you what. Actually, right now would probably be the cheapest time to sponsor the Kerfuffle podcast. So I'm happy.
I'll do it for a tenner.
Right, done. So today's Kerfuffle podcast is brought to you in partnership by our lovely partners at the Estate Agents Content Club. If you've not contacted Jerry about top-notch PR in a tone of voice that doesn't piss your customers off, please come and talk to Jerry at the, what's your email address?
I don't know.
estateagentcontentclub.co.uk. That's Jerry at the Estate Agent Content Club. What do you think?
Jerry. Do that for every guest, and you'll at least 10 guests. That's £100.
Yeah. You see, this is it's never been cheaper to sponsor. Our production quality costs are right down at the rock bottom at the moment.
Oh, fuck off! I got a green screen.
I thought it was a snooker table.
I think a gambling table.
Yeah. Anyway,
Jerry, I'm going to steer the conversation back to PR and also the news. So I think obviously today's news, you're seeing this seems to be echoing messages that you can get business done by way of virtual viewings. Now, yesterday, I think, I can't remember who it was. Is it Benjamin Churchill? I can't remember who it was, but I'm going to go online and find that. But yesterday, an agent also posted that they had, I think, over 3,000 views or something like that of a virtual open house that they did at a rented property, a property that was up for rent. So it took place by the agent was there. He seemed to be sort of suited and booted. He had gloves on, and he did this virtual walk round the property, which at the time appeared to be empty. So no questions asked as to when it was recently occupied, how much time has elapsed since the last person has left the building, and all that sort of stuff. But notwithstanding that, there wasn't that outpouring of absolute horror that there would have been at the same time that, say, Sam Ashdown did her famed viewing. So looking at Sam was invited on the show. It was a bit sort of controversial in terms of whether or not some people went so far as to say, I can't believe you're letting her explain her side of the story. But depending on who you talk to, some people have referred to this as a sort of, a Prince Andrew moment where you have an interview, it doesn't necessarily go exactly the way you think it might.
Right. So actually, just let me give you a bit of context so you know where I'm coming from. It's not just some bloke who's turned up on a mad webinar with you two. Right. So I've been a journalist for about 16 years, and I spent during that time in between, I probably spent about 4 years doing PR for various organizations and individuals. Now, one of the key things about PR is when to advise someone when to do something and when not to do something. First of all, what you said about giving Sam the right of reply, I think you had to. I think that was only fair. I think that's the right thing to do, and it made for good watching. Perhaps where Sam, the timing of what she done was bad. If I can only, like this, no disrespect to her, I can only say what I would have advised if I was working with her from a PR perspective. And that would have been, go on that show, say you're really sorry, don't try and over-explain, because all people are going to hear is estate agent did a viewing in lockdown. That's what most people are going to hear. They're not going to hear the rest of the backstory. So by making your messaging really clear and concise to, we're really sorry it won't happen again, it kind of kills the story from a journalistic point of view. But when I was watching it, I watched it and it made compelling viewing, got to be honest. There was one throwaway line that she was lucky that a journalist weren't watching and they could have reignited that story. I won't go over the lines, I think that's unfair, but from a journalistic point of view, I listened to that. I thought I would have took that if I was because journalists are mischief makers. It's like, I think I said to you, David, that the definition of news, and this is by somebody called I think it was Lord Rothermere, one of the old publishing barons, said, news is anything somebody else doesn't want you to hear. The rest is just advertising, which is so true. Because I bet you got good viewings for that webinar, did you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was what it was.
Yeah. a little hint of scandal, and people love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's the playground mentality of, oh, look, there's a fight. Let's go around and see what's
I
happening.
must tell you, it's the same with on. I think over the weekend there's a set of very unfortunate memes going around now about COVID in particular, and it's these Ghanaian funeral dancers that they've got.
Yes,
typical thing, video of somebody doing something immeasurably stupid that is going to get themselves killed, and at the moment,
style, isn't it?
yeah, before something majorly bad does happen, these funeral dancers start coming with the thing. So over the weekend, we were looking, or towards the end of last week, we started to get one out that had a mock-up of the Rightmove stories, basically.
I saw it, yeah.
And that video got more views than any other that we've ever done. Just in terms of the rate of pickup as well, because I think, you know, one thing that meme culture does is you understand what the format's going to be, and that does half the kind of work for you in the joke. But
you don't have to present anything, do you? You don't have to explain anything.
No. And it kind of hit home to us that if we wanted to run this podcast like the news of the world, we'd have more readers and more listeners than any other. Because I think that sort of, you know, anything kind of different, slightly dirty, perhaps a little bit scandalous, a little bit close to the line.
Salacious is a lovely phrase.
Salacious. Yes. Yeah. There you go.
We're going to just to be a journalist for 1 second there, Jerry. Don't worry, by the way, no one actually watches the podcast. So,
good.
Well, come on, what was the line? I'm desperate to know the line.
It was to do with numbers. She said the fee.
Yeah. Okay, right. So,
as any journalist, you've always. I had a great mentor journalist. He said most of the time, he said this. I've always got this next to me. It's just just habit. He said most of the time when you're interviewing, you don't actually need the notebook and pen. You don't need the tape recorder that's in your back pocket playing secretly, because you'll pick up on, and this is so true in a conversation, you'll pick up on the headline during the conversation, or you'll pick up on the main piece of your story during the conversation. So somebody may say like that, or you be speaking to someone, I'm trying to think of an example, we'll probably struggle to, but I don't know, somebody has a throwaway line. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but you'll be looking for those lines that you won't actually have to write down because they stick, they remember. So yeah.
So much so that you can't remember them now.
Exactly, yeah. But that's because I put down to the weight of hair on my head.
Yeah, a bit of head insulation.
Yeah.
Very important. Okay, so in terms of PR though, I think this period has been very, very fruitful in terms of PR blunders, because as like I say, the news generally speaking has been slow. So now we're reporting on anything that seems vaguely interesting. But I think then you've also got opportunities for company to completely get it wrong, and we've spoken about it a lot. And I know that yesterday I caught hold of a video that I think Chris Watkins had done with Robert May, which was along the lines of, be careful what you wish for, you might not want, you know, Rightmove to quite as quickly.
I haven't seen it, I've heard about this.
But Rightmove certainly, there's just a few examples in history. So there's obviously Gerald Ratner, but since then, nobody else has had that sort of moment.
Can I just say, Ratner's a good PR case in point, because had he come out the next day and said, I was joking, lads, he would have took all the steam out of that.
Yeah, you know, Ryan, we were knocking around a WhatsApp group, as we all do these days. And this comes back down to my basic arrogance and narcissism. But I was absolutely convinced I could have talked my way and joked my way out of that comment by Ratner if you were there. I think it's amazing that it got made up into such a big stink, because you're quite right there. It's hard to control it when it's out there, except I don't have to deal with newspapers.
But it's arrogance, though, isn't it?
It was the arrogance that probably made him not react quick enough.
Yeah.
Which is probably the same with Rightmove. They didn't react quick enough
Yeah.
and decisively enough to come out.
That is a very good commonality between Ratner and Rightmove in terms of
What's
the
fascinating
elegance.
there, though, Dave, is that actually, it wasn't like they took, weeks to do this, wasn't it? I mean, in corporate speak, 36 hours or whatever it was not bad to be able to come back. But what it showed was the conversation had moved on just so massively, hadn't it? And Jerry, you were very outspoken, as you always are, as we always are, talking about at first, the Zoopla one was, perfectly executed. But then actually, when you looked at it, it didn't quite deliver, did it? Because it was probably been a little bit too cynical. And
yeah, I think I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I wanted to sort of clarify what I was saying with Zoopla purely from a communications point of view. Perfect. You have to admire what they did, because what was it? Rightmove, and forgive me if I got the timeline wrong. Rightmove came out with their shit offer, and then wasn't it on the market? Or was it on the market?
No, I think Rightmove came out with that. I think they were the first to come out with their shit offer. I think On the Market had indicated they were looking at doing something, and then Zoopla came in saying sign up to X amount of time or come off Rightmove altogether, and we're going to give you a
No. You're missing. There was 2 Rightmove announcements before Zoopla did anything. So there was 2 from Rightmove. There was
so there was the first. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll let you defer.
Yeah.
We will lend you part of your own money and subscription. We will subsidise that. You won't pay any interest on it, but you must pay us back. And not only that, sorry, I'd like you to send me copies of your pipeline or other proof of funding that you're going to be able to pay this.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And then I think On the Market did their little stab. But the genius, and I thought they had some balls in Zoopla to do this. And I'm not saying Zoopla's better than Rightmove and all that. To me, they all sound like a bunch of hedge fund wankers, to be honest with you, and shareholders and all that. That's not my game. Do you know what I mean? I'm not interested in that.
Thanks, Jerry. There's those sponsorship opportunities.
You heard it here first. Jerry doesn't like wanking or hedge funding. He's not into any of that.
One of them I do, one of them I don't. You make your minds up on that. But what I would say is Zoopla's strategy was so bold, because it was almost like, if I was advising Zoopla, I would have got that wrong. I would have went, once Rightmove went, I'd have said, wait for On the Market, then we'll go. But what they did, they waited till Rightmove did their second announcement. So Zoopla were quiet now. No one's heard anything from Zoopla. Then they did it, if you remember, it was like literally 10 minutes after.
Yeah.
So that is their strategy. It wasn't reactive, it was proactive. They knew exactly what they were doing. God knows how they knew. Somebody there's got big cojones.
Yeah.
Very clever from a PR point of view. Yeah. So I get the point about the offer. I'm not talking about the offer. I'm talking about
Simon, you talked about that 36 hours being a relatively kind of short period of time between them coming out with the first and the second. But if you look in terms of that first 36 hours, that very short time frame gave agents time to communicate with each other, form Facebook groups. There was an email list going around at one point. I think Murray from Dreamview was pushing that around, and there was a whole movement that very, very quickly agents started to communicate with one another.
It was going to be the floodgates, wasn't it? With something.
Yeah, and I think actually in all of these things, there's very few agents in actual fact that have taken bold steps in terms of numbers I'm talking about now, to actually pull away from Rightmove altogether. It may be significant. You might say, well, 1,000 agents is significant, or 1,500, but really to make a nationwide, industry-wide change, you need many more sort of numbers than that. But it's interesting. It snowballed enough that it makes its way back into the national press with the FT. And I think that those 36 hours cost Rightmove a load off their share price. A very expensive 36 hours, those for them.
Well, they were six quid odd, weren't they? And they're about 4.34 at the moment, are they? So,
I think so, something like that. Yeah.
I noticed it did rebound from a previous low, but it's on a bit of a drip down. Look, I don't know. It's really difficult. I mean, I've actually stopped myself because I always buy shares at entirely the wrong time. even with insider dealing, which I shouldn't say on a recording.
You know, like you say, I said earlier, all you need is somebody to say one thing during a conversation, and you go, "That's my story." See you later.
Yeah, Jerry, the thing about me is there are so many. How do you pick one of them out?
This is true. This is true.
That's what everyone's been saying. Is like, oh, you're guaranteed to get corona. It's got to fight against some other much sturdier diseases to get past them to get to me first. Just as an aside, by the way, Jerry, I was laughing as you were saying that. You know, it's actually a really good tip, isn't it, for most people? We tend to wake up in the middle of the night with great ideas, and you forget them if you don't note them down. So I know many people do keep it there. I had just my phone handy, and I woke up laughing, but also with just the genius of the idea that I'd had in my sleep. I'll just read you out what I put, and this, I think it shows how different some of us are. It says, idea. That's the most important thing. Rick Mail brought back to life in a comedy show with Martin Clunes, powered by artificial intelligence. He is seconded to the Secret Service and takes over the world as the AI becomes sentient.
How did you think all that?
Wow. Wow. It's like
I woke up in the morning, you know, because I knew I'd had a great idea, and I went.
It's like the Terminator meets Ghost meets men behaving badly.
Just the idea of Rick like pull my finger.
Oh, you know, you just reminded me of something. Me and my friend, in my drinking days, this go back 10 years ago, got mad drunk, and we talked about writing a comedy script. And we thought we had genius script, blah, 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 and we thought we were writing it down, but we get more and more drunk. In the morning, like hammered, wake up with crisp packets and bottles of beer all over you, forget most of the night. I said, where are those notes? And we found the notes, and all that it said was, the monkey is key. So this comedy that we thought was going to change the world and be the next Only Fools and Horses, that's all that we had left.
You should be able to do that everywhere. That's a business plan.
Hang on. So, Jerry, you do some, on an ad hoc basis, you do a bit of comedy, a couple of comedy sketches with that guy.
Oh, James, that's when our ADHD kicks in, and we just.
I have to say, I quite like. I don't know. There's something about him and his comedy timing. I quite like it.
He's got an acting background, though. He was a professional actor. He even had a stage name. It's really rubbish. I can't remember what it was.
The
James
Mighty Whale.
Yeah, no, I think you could Google him. James from Holtz. That was his name, from Holtz.
Right.
Yeah, that's not his real name.
Okay.
We digress.
That was a shitty stage name.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to check that out. Have you got any plans to do some more comedy?
Don't know. It depends when I see somebody again. Yeah.
You could. I think Zoom. You could do with James some sort of Zoom conferencing comedy sketch. I think it'd go well.
Yeah, it might do. Might give it a go.
So, PR and property, obviously we talked about a couple of blunders there, but if you were to talk about people that are very good at getting PR out there are some absolute stars at the moment. But just to go back to people that might not be considered stars at the moment, do you think that part of Purple Bricks' success initially was their handling of PR, in as much as they understood that what they were going to do was try and disrupt an industry. Yeah. So they bypassed very much the industry as a whole, went straight to the public and went, this is the message. The message is you're overpaying for estate agent services. Any monkey can do this. We do it for this amount, and you won't even have to pay us till, you pay us up front now, or whatever it is. Do you think that's a PR win?
In my opinion, yes, because they didn't really care what the industry thought. Often the industry is, whatever industry you're in, is a bad judge of your PR. Because back in the banking crisis, none of the bankers thought they were doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
The public hated them. Yeah. But the bankers, no. So agents had to be careful of getting involved in that sort of feeling that everyone's against us. But I think one of the things that I say about Purple Bricks, and you moved to a degree, they got a tone of voice really good. Yeah. They came out with a different tone of voice, and they spoke differently. If you speak differently, you get noticed. As long as you don't sound like an idiot, They came out with a much more human tone of voice, and yeah.
What do you think that was? Was that just cutting out, all the bullshit, all the acronyms, all of the, literally just almost as they talk about, what they call about transparent English or whatever with documents rather than legalese. And it did. You're quite right. I mean, the way I remember it was that it forced agents, first of all, to understand they know why they're better than the agent down the high street. They were appalling at actually vocalising that to anyone who wasn't an estate agent. And what it took them a while to actually neutralise those points, didn't it, with the onliners? When they did, I think they've come back stronger, though, actually.
I think maybe it was a bit like where agents were trying to sound too professional, like solicitors, and where the likes of the Purple Bricks and these other sort of, whatever you want to call them, disruptive brands have come in. They said, no, we're going to sound human. We're going to sound personable rather than...
Yeah.
We're still going to sound like we know what we're talking about, but we're not going to use words like vendor. Come on.
Yeah.
We should be... I know we all use that word from time to time because it's so stuck in our head, but really...
It's industry... They changed the vernacular for estate agents forever. And one of the things that they introduced was the concept of a local property expert. And all of a sudden, up and down the country, agents cottoned onto this and they thought, well, hang on, no, it's my job to be the local property expert because I really am. I know the area well. These Purple Bricks local experts live locally 100 miles away, so they don't know what they're talking about. Everybody all of a sudden started rebranding themselves as a property expert.
You know what it was like? It's like the scene in Spartacus.
Yes.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm the LPE.
I'm the local property expert. No, I am. It's like, yeah, come on. Where's Kirk Douglas when you need him, really?
And I actually think that move sometimes actually made us take another step away from your customers because not everybody can be the local property expert. And it's interesting. It was a knee-jerk reaction. So the agents followed Purple Bricks. And it's the one thing that seemed to have stuck.
Yeah.
One thing you've got to knock out I always used to laugh when it was actually in the CRM. Applicant. I mean, is there a more hideous term than that?
It sounds like a cream.
It's awful.
It makes me think of cream.
Yeah.
You were saying about PR blunders and PR wonders.
Yes.
See what I did there?
That's
good. I've actually got Jerry. I've actually got who's hot and who's not ready for you.
Wow.
Now I've got to redo that, so thank you for that. So what was that again? Wonders and blunders.
Blunders and wonders.
This is where hopefully I'm wearing pants.
Oh, here we go.
Wonders and blunders. Okay, we're going to come on to this bit in a minute.
Jerry, can you see in the background? He's got I think he calls it the hot stepper.
Or is this
Travelator? I call it the
Travelator.
Travelator. Travelator. Love it. So what we're talking about, we've talked about the blunders, haven't we? Or who's
we've done the blunders. Who are the wonders?
Who are the blunders? I was thinking about this. I think you've got to say straight away, Chris. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Christian Byfield.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go there. Like, great beard, doing the right thing. You know what? There's a real easy way of sort of summing up PR, and PR can be really easy. And a mentor of mine said, when you do PR with good people, it's a piece of piss because they're good people, and good people get good PR. There's a reason why. I know somebody in Anthony Joshua's PR camp in that circle. He said he's so easy to do PR for because he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And where Christian, he just seems a nice guy doing great things and in bad times, that sort of thing. So yeah, he'd definitely be up there. I came across, and this is repeated across the country, lots of local independent agents, especially in small towns. I'm not saying not in the big cities because there are, but there's loads of them that are just doing remarkable things. Like I was speaking to a guy, Warren Bauman, yesterday. He's got a company called CWB Property in Snodland, which I think is Kent. My geography's as shit as my maths. But what he did at the start of the crisis, he got the leaflets out to say, can we help? This was literally March 16th. He said he had a print run of leaflets, but he changed them to say, can we help? And then over the course of the last 5 weeks, they've helped hundreds of people in Snodland pick up prescriptions. They've got the local council helping them. Right. They've really united the community. It's almost like the, I thought of this when I was speaking to me. They'd become almost the fifth emergency service.
Mm.
Is it the fifth or the fourth? Is AA one of the?
Just Eat is the fifth.
Yeah, Just Eat. Actually, they're the sixth because Deliveroo. But you look at these small independent agencies, and this whole. I hate to call this an opportunity. It's a chance to show real community-minded agents.
Well, let's go back to that, because I mean we're obviously very property focused, and so when I read news, I read it I'm looking for those property stories, if you like. But I can see on social media agents up and down the country taking that message of support rather than sales, and they're trying to sort of support their local community. There's lots of posting about deliveries you can get if you're stuck in at home, or just even sharing recipes with local residents, whatever it may be. There's an awful lot of that going on, and it seems to come from estate agents, good estate agents anyway, who understand the value of that PR message. And the less cynical side of me is going to say, look, these are guys that genuinely are not doing the volume of sales or business that they could have done back in the day. So they want to help their community because they're nice people at the end of the day. But there's also that underlying feeling that there's some people that know that they have to tone their message into such a sort of a tune that is able to be heard at the moment.
Yeah.
So there's walking that fine line between sort of seeming like it's a commercial decision, and it's an actual support.
I think the way you were before COVID-19 is the way you are in COVID-19. If you were a community-minded agent before, it's going to be instinctive. You want to help naturally. If you were...
I'm going to give an example of that. I always go on about drivers and Norris because they're one of the best examples. As I said, single office, not there, but punched so far above their weight, both socially and socially minded. And the first thing I saw them come out with was, they gave big donations to the food bank. They understood that, food banks, ridiculously, some food bank actually got raided. I saw back in Birmingham, which is just crazy. But those guys did it. They did it for the one there. And I just thought that there's an agency that gets it. And I think one thing is, let's be honest about this. It can benefit the business, and that's not a bad thing. And people have got to remember that you could be doing really good charity work and it have a positive, there is a virtuous cycle here, and you shouldn't be embarrassed about it. But the key thing is just to make sure you're doing it, because there's no doubt. You tell me another industry that does as much grassroots support. I'm not from this industry. I'm the wonderful parasite that sits sucking the joy out of it and making a good living out of it. But they do that. We're doing obviously again a bit of a plug for us. We do it for Dom, for our good friend Dom, who struck down with Huntington's. And the people that came back on it was like 100 for year one, 150. All of these, I'm not going to be unfair to name them, and that there's just simply an avalanche of agents doing it, and they don't get. There's no doubt about it. They don't get the good plaudits that they absolutely.
So, at what point? Obviously, our industry took a conscious decision to change its image within the public, and I think, I don't know when you can time this back to, but at least 5 or 6 years ago, it suddenly the lights went on and people started to get that community stuff works, that sort of hard sales doesn't. And what people want to see is the community side of it.
I think Purple Bricks played a part in that.
You think?
And I tell you why. Because Purple Bricks were influenced by Seth Godin, an American marketeer who came out with the book Purple Cow. Do the maths, as our American cousins say. Purple Cow, Purple Bricks. Go figure. And his whole ethos is you have to be remarkable. He's a very generous, super intelligent guy. He said your business has to be remarkable. It has to be more about than what you sell. It has to be the stories you get across to people. And the biggest story you can have is people stories. So by working in the communities, estate agents are really creating loads of good stories and the feel-good factor, and they're just doing the right thing. Think of it, right? I was thinking of this the other day. Would you rather be remembered by your kids as really, really good at your job, or a good human being? I know which one I'd want.
Not as
First of all, I'm
Good journalist.
touched that you think my kids are going to remember me. That's the thing, for a start.
and it's definitely just my kids, isn't it?
Yeah. Already kids. But the community aspect is, and I'm saying to agents, I think every agent or agency should have a community page in the future on their website. Show what you do. Don't be shy about doing what you do. Don't be obviously, oh look, we've done this because there's a way of doing it. There's a PR way of doing it. And people can suss out when you're doing it for opportunistic reasons, and people will realise instinctively you're doing it for the right reasons.
And do you think that it is working though with the public? So do you think that there's a certain shift? Yeah,
I do. When I was speaking, to go back to, you look at anyone who's doing stuff like this on social media. Aaron Kirk, Property Cloud in Dartford. I nicked his idea as well, so he knows I nicked his idea. He donated some bakery goods. He spent some money at a bakery and said, drop them off at the fire station and the ambulance service station in his area. On social media, it lit up his social media. Everyone, that's a lovely thing to do, blah, blah, blah. People appreciate that, because on the flip side, you've got people doing nothing. So who's gonna get better PR? The agent that's getting out there, getting involved and being generous and kind, or the agent doing fuck all?
The other thing is as well, Joe, isn't it? It's true that once agencies get to a certain size, and I think it's fair to say, like the principals feel like they've achieved, they do get very very prominent in terms of promoting the charities that they believe in as well. So that becomes another dynamic as to why they're so involved. Normally through to, obviously, as many of us do get involved with these things because of personal experience.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's that personal link.
Just give you a shout out, by the way. We've got Andy Overman, who says the Facebook feed is up and down like a horse draws, and as I said, well, we've got Amy Hansen. She's always watching it. Good, obviously, good old fan and sponsored sports person of the show. And we've got Simon Woodcock, who I think has just said hi all like a pensioner on a text message.
Hello.
So hello guys. If we're still live, we love you all.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, any sort of, you've obviously mentioned some PR superstars there. You're providing a lot of decent content at the moment, and there's a variety there, isn't there? And one of it is, I think you do sort of a Feel Good Friday thing as well, where we've got some good news that goes out there. And one of the things that I really like, and it just because it's ever so slightly daft in a sort of cringeworthy way, but really good news at the same time. You've got Jonathan Handford's, positive.
I like that. Yeah.
And what makes me, it's the silly wigs that he gets everybody wearing. Whaley did one. He did not need a silly wig because he has a silly wig.
Yeah.
But he was wearing a funny pair of glasses that made him look strangely like Russell Crowe for some reason.
Oh, I'll take that.
Yeah, no, well, not sort of in a sort of a Beautiful Mind 6.
Oh, not Gladiator.
Yeah. But no, I really like that because it's a little bit of positive news, and like you say, it's just ever so slightly naff that it makes me laugh.
He's had a bit of it's not for me to say, he's had a bit of bad news in the family, so unfortunately it's just been put on hold there. So again, the thoughts out to him at the time. So, which is a real shame, as you're trying to do such good like that. He's had a bit of bad news, but
he would be up on that the hot list for me.
We get him up there. That'll make him feel better.
Yeah,
Here we
there
are.
you go.
Tom Handford. There we are. Used to bully me at school for my pocket money, so that's another plus.
You went to school?
He went. I went to private school, and he went to the comp next door. So he used to hang me on my feet and get my bunch of money off me. Yeah.
You rotter.
Yeah. Fine.
Okay, so Jerry, let's end this show on a note of positivity as well. What sort of PR tips have you got for our listening public? Where should the message be for the next 2 or 3 weeks?
PR tip don't be a dick. There you go.
All right, see ya.
No, the PR tip is, seriously, think about those. If they only get one thing out of this webinar, think of those 3 phases of content communication in a crisis.
It's been upgraded to a webinar now.
Is it webinar? What do you call this? What do you call this?
This
Podcast.
is a podcast, man.
Podcast guy.
Webinar.
This thing, right? Remember, help, hope, happiness. We're not in a happiness stage yet, so don't be overtly selling. Keep helping. Start offering hope. Then we can move on to the happiness phase when we have lockdown's over. Or can you imagine the euphoria across the globe when somebody goes, you know what? We've discovered a vaccine for this.
Yeah.
It works, and it doesn't give people like 3 heads when they take it, sort of thing. So do that. Help, hope, happiness, and remain seen. If you're doing, and it doesn't have to be huge articles and stuff like that. Think, how can we? There's loads of little things you can do, just on social media. Keep ticking over. Keep sharing. I've seen a good one recently, in the last couple of days, from a guy called Steve Betts in Barnsley, and his was really simple. Share with us your favourite lockdown photo.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's simple, isn't it? It's so simple, but so good. So it doesn't have to be a massive strategy.
I claim myself for coming up with this, but it is one that a couple of our clients have actually adopted, which they've done it far better. And it started off at the beginning with the idea of getting behind the the businesses in your area, and of course many of them are struggling. Many of them had come up individually with things like gift tokens for restaurants. One of the things that I thought was problematic with that is, let's be honest, the public were holding back a bit because they didn't know whether that business was still going to be there and done it. So I thought the idea would be for the agent to be at the centre of the community, go out and talk to a number of businesses, and to have a voucher that could be exchanged at any of those ones, and really to own that process again, in the way that Oliver does. In fact, he's just jumped up, own the postcode. It puts you always at the middle of that doing good work, doesn't it? And you don't get anything out of it, but I'm pretty sure everyone will remember you on the basis of it.
I think that's a great idea, and you know what? I do think you get stuff out of it.
Yeah.
I think whether you believe in the law of reciprocity or karma,
that's genius.
Remember we were going to sing Karma Chameleon at some point. Remember, that's why I agreed on the show.
Just before Simon Whale tried to introduce his own local charitable quantitative easing by creating all of these vouchers, flooding the economy with these worthless vouchers. right now you can have any seat in the restaurant. It's free. Go on, take it.
A window seat.
As long as my key suppliers are looked after, we're okay. Jerry, we ask everyone now, since we did it in our last episode. We are asking the fool's errand of guessing when the market bounces back to normal, and we're defining normal as being within 20% of normal land reg figures. We want the month and we want the year from you, please, and we'll hold you to it, or we will shout about it from the hilltops when you get it right.
Back to normal. Back to normal. When? When was what are you measuring it from?
So transactions within 20% of normal transactions month on month.
Within 20%.
Yeah.
Jeez, I've got the. It's a good job I work with words, because I think I've got the number equivalent of dyslexia, which is apparently a thing.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. My expenses.
So there's my disclaimer when I say 2025 January 1st. No. God, that's hard. Can I say I don't know? People don't say I don't know enough nowadays.
No.
Everyone's got to know. Why do everyone got to know stuff?
Never coming back. Okay, I'm making a note. It's never coming. Well, sorry, actually, that, David, was one of the things we were going to talk, weren't they? I did see there was some bastard, financial expert institutions. And I'm sure it was in Property Industry EAT yesterday, where they said the profit of the property market wasn't going to recover for 5 years. Kiss my ass.
I'll give you a harder one. Imagine you are a local estate agent. You know the area inside and out. That person could tell you the difference in value between one side of the street and the other. The nuances can be that subtle. But and you call him about your house right now, and you say to him, what is the value of my house going to be immediately after lockdown is released? It's a very, very difficult question to answer, because the truth is, long term, even short term, we're going to need to see what the initial reaction is. There will be euphoria. People will rush out and they'll want to spend money on certain things. I think restaurants will be flooded first, because I think everybody will want that kind of ability to sort of socialize and to breathe and to go out and do things that they're not able to do at the moment. Ironically, they may not be the first businesses brought back. So I think you may find that maybe estate agents might be in the first wave of businesses that are brought back into play. But it just depends what the finance looks like at the time, what mortgage products are available, whether people's payment history over the past few months in any way has impaired their ability to get a mortgage. We've not started asking those questions yet. We've certainly not started answering them. So, and it's interesting to see how the market will react to it. So I think there'll be a period of time where people will sort of be holding their breath and waiting to see what happens.
And the psychological impact. Remember, this is a traumatic time for a lot of people. Some people might just think, you know what, I am going to hold on to everything I've got for at least a year. Yeah. In terms of money, I'm not going to move. Do you know what I mean? So, this is why.
One vendor contacted me and he said, just letting you know that since lockdown has happened, we were selling the house because we were downsizing because this house is too big for us. But he said, it's amazing how small that house became when it was just the two of them rattling around in there on a day-to-day basis, but they needed that space to be away from each other. He said he was so grateful that we hadn't yet got to the stage where exchange of contracts could take place, so he could stay there that little bit longer. But in all seriousness, if we anticipate a time when lockdown is going to happen again, that might actually change the way that we look at our homes, our ability to work from home, what we need.
I think that work from home is going to be a big thing, because I've given up my office, my serviced office, because I've realised I've got spare room in the house.
Yeah.
Why do I need it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that means I don't need the second car that I used to ferry myself back and forth. So from an environmental point of view, economic point of view, I can work from home now. Do you know what I mean?
You see Denmark, I think it was, who were relaxing it. And interestingly enough, they did hairdressers because self-image, obviously.
That's my article for today about that. Yeah.
A seamless plug. No, the other thing is, I think they were unlocking or releasing whatever DIY do-it-yourself stores, so things like B&Q, because at least people, if they are at home, can be doing stuff. And of course, those are going to get such an avalanche of people trying to turn them into, like this home offices and all the rest of it, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think there's going to be some industries that come out of this flying. Absolutely fine. Obviously, you've got the likes of cleaners and that sort of thing. I genuinely believe that. Like commercial cleaners, B&Q. I was thinking the other day, anyone to do with home tech.
Yeah.
Businesses that deliver to customer, D2C businesses.
Yeah. I mentioned Brian earlier. He's at the end of his tether because he's broadband, which is was a bit of a pain in the arse. Can you imagine I got the 5G router because I couldn't cope with the kids were coming in and saying, Dad, you bastard, we're glitching out on Fortnite, and it was breaking the family up. 5G router, just to stop those spoiled.
You've got to be careful with those 5G routers though, because Debbie off Facebook reckons they started coronavirus.
Loads of dead birds here, but frankly, on both sides.
It's outside his door. It's like a scene out of Children of the Corn.
Trevor DoorDash, is it? Underneath the patio.
Oh, God.
Well, on that positive note, I want to wish Jerry Lyons all the very best.
David, are we going to officially make? He's got to be an official monthly guest of the show now, hasn't he?
Jerry complained yesterday that he. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry complained yesterday that he hadn't been on the show yet, but in actual fact, I think Jerry was, I think, possibly on our second show ever, where he called in. But certainly, Jerry, you're our go-to man when it comes to PR.
Okay, cool, good.
And blunders.
Wonders and blunders. What was that? I missed that bit.
I said, when we haven't got any guests.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like who did. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Mate, thank you very much. You are a light out there in the dark, so it is appreciated. And everyone, as usual, go and have
You're a shining beacon of kindness in an otherwise nasty world, Jerry. Thanks, man.
Look at you. I'm telling you, you haven't claimed your page on Kerfuffle, which is unforgivable.
I'm going to do it, but is the form still really long?
No, we let you do it. I was so lazy because I used to send out a Word document, and then I uploaded a couple of people and went, fuck this. So I went to our developers, we need to expose the CMS so they can self-service. So I'll send you
I'll do it then. It was just
now www.kerfuffle.it/register.
Can I tell you something about that original form? This is a true story. I tried doing it at the same time I was applying for my Irish passport, because I get an Irish passport from my dad. So in Brexit, I thought, you know what I mean? I want to move around. Do you know what I mean? I don't want big queues. So
That's what Pablo Escobar used to say.
Kerfuffle's form at the time, not now, folks, but it was longer than the Republic of Ireland's passport form. It's just a true story.
Jerry, here's a secret. I'm a little bit verbose and full of it.
Yeah, I've heard. But no, all good, lads. And listen, I think remember, we're not all in the same boat, but we're all in the same storm. How's that?
Lovely. Lovely.
That's horrible. Jerry, just before you go, is it true there's no such thing as bad PR?
That's bollocks. Tell that to Ratner. This is such bullshit, that one. There's no such thing as any PR. It's not. Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, Max Clifford. Just Ratner. It's just not. It's so. Whoever said that is just. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. So if I give you an option, right, David, we're going to run a story about your agency, sort of not nicking from your local food bank, but sort of taking some of the beans donations from your food bank, but leaving some of the rubbish. You took the good stuff, you left the rubbish. But
we took the beans and bites.
The beans, it's quite understandable.
Okay.
I would have took the spaghetti hoops myself. So you've got that story about your agency, yeah? Is that no such thing as bad PR? Because that gets out. That's gonna do something for your profile.
But just for people who've just tuned in now, since this is live, this didn't actually happen. No beans and bites were harmed in the making of this episode.
It's hypothetical.
Kerfuffle today. Estate agent steals from food bank.
Yeah.
That's a wrap. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care.